you could have 3,000, 5,000 views, and the purpose of it is just for your potential clients to watch it before they meet with you. Maybe, that's a way to introduce them to you and your message. And that may be paying off for you more than the 1 million views.
Welcome to the Speaking for Profit podcast, where we talk about monetizing your message and taking your business to the next level through your expertise. Y'all are going to love this conversation with my friend Cesar. We're going to talk a little bit about TEDx talks, but we're not just going to talk about how to land them. If you want to learn that, you can learn that in the last episode that we had with Cesar. You probably will see that somewhere up here. But today we're going to talk about how can you market this? How can you actually turn this into profit? And how can you brand yourself as a TEDx speaker and an expert in the world? So I'm really excited about the conversation. If you are listening anywhere in the world, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, go on and subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to leave some comments, engage with us. We would love to hear, have you already done a TED Talk? Is it something that you're interested in doing in the future? And if you have, go on and drop the link so that we could check it out. All right, Cesar, welcome to the Speaking for Profit podcast. Welcome back, Sam.
Hey, okay. I don't know how many people you have back, but I'm feeling honored nonetheless. Okay.
Yes,
maybe it's everybody, I don't know. Maybe.
No, it's not everybody.
Okay.
Like, we don't have a lot of alumni that keep, and you've come into, my paid community, Speaking for Profit Academy a couple of times.
That's true. I'm feeling the love. I'm feeling the love. All right.
We can officially say that you are Speaking for Profit fan. I really appreciate you. Definitely.
I love it.
Every time I see you, I want to dance. So I'm just going to get a little jiggy with it. Yeah.
we can jam my intro music here in a minute. I'll find it.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being here, for being willing to give this time, and for taking a break from daddy duties and daddy jokes, as we were talking about before. Do me a favor. Some folks are watching this podcast for the first time, and I would love for you to share with them, just in a few sentences, what you do to support TEDx speakers get on the stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, I founded, my company is called Top Talks, and I help people in two different ways, right? So one is through kind of landing and delivering TEDx talks, and the other is focused on the keynote world. And sometimes these worlds kind of merge. Sometimes we help people who already have their own TED Talk and they're creating a keynote out of it. Sometimes vice versa. And it's a cool world to be in. I love speeches. I love TED and the mission. And it's just so beautiful because the people that I work with, there's something important that they want to deliver and that they want to give. And that's the difference, is that I think in the world of TED, it's pretty focused on how can we change the world for the better, and what do we have, what idea or expertise do we have to be able to help people do that? How do we solve a problem is another way to think about it. And so essentially we work with people at different stages throughout the process, but often folks are at the very beginning. They're like, I want to do this. It's on my bucket list. And that's true for me. It was a dream, right? And slowly I got more confident with the idea for my talk. And that's kind of the first step. So a lot of times the first step is meeting with people and just understanding where their idea is and helping them make progress towards saying okay, here's how it would fit into TED. Here's how we can tweak it. And then the next stage is really getting selected. So once you have that message refined and it's okay, it's brief, it's powerful, I can say it in one sentence, then you get the applications out there. We help folks get selected. Once you get selected, now the real work starts, right? Now it's okay, now I got to, make sure my talk is legit and that it actually is transformative and that it's authentic. And so we help people create the talk and also coach on delivery. And so that's my world.
Yeah. And you're helping a lot of people. Let's not even just say just people. And I love that you said once you land the talk, because every week I'm in your Facebook group and there's some success story of someone making it to the finalist round or finally submitting their application. And what I love about your framework and the way that you teach people I feel like it's approachable and you acknowledge all the wins, right? Like this person finally got their application in, this person got selected, this person, and I could tell some of the folks have worked with you and some folks are just a part of that amazing community that you're building and also just the amazing community of TED itself. So you're helping people with their speeches, which is to me almost like helping them with their brand copy in a way.
Right.
What are some of the things that you see in people who've been speaking for a while that they need support on? And then what are some of the things that you see with beginners that they really need support on?
Yeah, well, and sometimes there is a crossover and like a overlap with this kind of stuff because we're always kind of reinventing ourselves. I think the longer you're in the business, the more you decide that your message has changed a little bit or it needs to adjust to the times or you just want to do a new program, a new keynote. But what I would say is that I think you kind of nailed it, which is like when you think about anything that's worth saying, it's worth saying clearly and with power, right? And that's the difference. I think we've all we're all subscribed to some kind of email list at some point, right? And if you're like me, there's probably like a dozen at any given time. And then I'm like, all right, unsubscribe. All right, let's clean things up.
And then you subscribe back.
Yeah. And the difference, I think, between the ones that you continue to engage in do two things. One is that you know exactly what they're about. You know what it's saying. It's clear. It's a world that you either live in or want to live in. And it actually is stuff that gives you like an aha moment or is transformative in some kind of way. It changes you and or your business, your mission, whatever. The second piece is that it's authentic. Like it's actually that person and perspective and that it's real. And that's why people engage in anything, whether it's an email list, a piece of content, a TED Talk, etc. Is it transformative? And is it clear and actually that, from that person authentic? So yeah, that's what I would say. But to go back to your question about like, okay, where do these folks live? And like, somebody who's been in speaking for a while, someone who hasn't, I think the clarity of what you do and how you serve people, like you see that very clear later when people find their kind of wheelhouse and their niche. And when you work with folks that are early in the process, they're still trying to find that. And that's normal, right? Because most people have multiple gifts to give, multiple interests, and they're trying to find the right thing. And also sometimes are asking themselves, what do people want and what will work? And sometimes those things are helpful and sometimes they're not, because they can either lead you towards what's authentic for you, or they can start catering to things that maybe aren't aligned with you. And the difference is that, for those who've been around and have been doing the speaking, like they're pretty clear on that, and they've taken that journey already.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I've seen some folks doing some really cool stuff with their TED Talks when it comes to branding and marketing. And I've also seen some folks doing like some stuff where it's like, I don't ever want you to see this TED Talk. So there's a couple I follow, and they're interesting because they got married after knowing each other for 2 weeks. It was one of those kind of relationships where,
Watch out.
Right? Where we all were kind of like, okay.
Good luck.
Hey, good luck. And they ended up getting a divorce. No shade to that. Not saying any of you out there who got married in 2 weeks, you're going to get divorced. I'm not even putting the energy out there. I'm just saying they did. But they did like a TEDx talk together.
Oh, right? Wow.
Right? Like a couples talk. So recently, one of the people had posted like, I've got to do another TED talk that, like by myself, that's solo. Right? So that I can actually post it because they don't feel comfortable posting it with their ex. And then I seen someone else who kind of brought it up recently as a part of credibility for their brand because they're actually about to put out a book. Right. They were like, things you might not know about me. That's kind of what they're doing right now because they're putting out a memoir, right? And one of the posts was like, I was on TED 10 years ago. Here's the speech that's been viewed however hundreds of thousands of times, right? So for you, what are some cool ways that you've seen either clients present it or bring it back almost like a throwback Thursday to build that credibility?
Well, I want to start a little before that, because what I want to say is, first, the quality of the talk and the message is going to determine like how well it moves, right? And how well it does what you want it to do, which at the end of the day is to attract the right people to give the thing that you have to give. And so what I would say is like that early work and really distilling down the message and knowing that, you know, it's a message that you want to be able to last, or at least it speaks to what you do right now, is important, and what you care about right now is important. It doesn't mean that it has to like live forever, right? Like we all change and transform and what have you. But what I would say is like, at least have that as a goal, like something that can stand the test of time.
Like Mariah Carey's Christmas.
Like, you know, something, I'm reminded of a Ryan Holiday book called Perennial Seller. And, you know, in a world of like being super niche and like, you know, things that are hot right now, I think that there's a place for that. And it's certainly, you know, it certainly can be a kind of talk. But if you really want it to like be out there and be connected to you and your message, you might ask yourself, all right, what is the thing that could stand the test of time? So that's the first thing I would say. The second is that you also then have to know how you want to leverage it. And you want to actually be making that plan before it's released so that, you know, you can launch strong. And that's where you want to kind of build that Google juice, if you will, like really launch it at the beginning so that it can move on its own. Like the goal is, if YouTube can just take this over and start suggesting it to people, like beautiful, you know what I mean? So that's where I would put most of my energy. And then it's really about what you want it for. So like if you have 1 million views, great. Did those 1 million views convert into what you wanted them to convert into? And the answer could be yes. It could be, yeah, there's a ton of credibility there. I had people reach out to me. I was able to use it for my speaker reel. I was able to book speaking gigs from it, etc. Or you could have 3,000, 5,000 views, and the purpose of it is just for your potential clients to watch it before they meet with you. Maybe, you know, that's a way to introduce them to you and your message. And that may be paying off for you more than the 1 million views. Like it's about how you want to leverage it. And too often what I see is that the only metric we're using is whether or not it went viral. So
exactly. It's like it could go viral and then no one else knows about you in a week, right? Like,
right.
And doesn't really help your business. So I love this thought of launching, thinking about your outcomes. Do you, when you're working with your clients, particularly think to yourself, even when you're planning which place you're going to speak or how you're going to speak with TED, is that a part of the process to think, how do I want to launch this and how do I want to connect it to my brand? Or is it more like, hey, let's just get you in and then we can decide that once you're selected?
Yeah, like the question of location is like, it has my experience, and, you know, we've landed hundreds and hundreds of talks for folks now and seen a bunch of them go viral and some that don't, but do incredible things for folks and their business. And they're able to get more PR from it. Like I've seen kind of, you know, it run the gamut. And the question of location has very little to do with how it then works for you. So like one of the examples I like to use is, so Evolve, you've seen Simon Sinek's talk probably, right?
Yep.
Where did he deliver it?
The TEDx stage?
Right. But you don't know which city. What about Brene Brown? Where did she deliver it?
I'm going to fail this quiz every time, right?
Houston, right? So she happened to do it in Houston. but nobody's going to remember that, right?
Or the topic of what that TEDx series was about.
Yeah, nobody knows the theme. And so do not place a greater importance on the theme because of the live audience when your primary audience is going to be the internet. And so, my general messaging there is Simon Sinek delivered one of the most, viewed talks of all time. And there was about 50 people in the audience. The sound was crackling and they had to change the mic out like a few minutes into it, right? It's even a little grainy, like it's not even shot that well. But it was a really timely message that gave us like a moment of perspective that we didn't have before, an aha moment. And that's why it moved, right? Mm-hmm. So could it be that you get selected for a place and their production isn't good? Yes. And it could be that it's so bad that you decide, I don't want this thing to go live. And that's a question. I've seen it happen maybe once or twice, where folks are like, ooh, I can't hear it. That if you literally can't hear it, and then, okay, yeah, we got to scrap it. But other than that, honestly, it lives on the same platform. If your message is strong, it can move. And that's my position.
Definitely. And when you think about movement, right? Because now we're really talking about this almost being a business plan. And I know you mentioned this is when you want to get in the space with the Googles, right? Like you want to be on point. What are some strategies that you would suggest for people? Like, I know you're working with one of my clients, which is now our client, on one of their first talks. Amazing individual. Are there tips that you're giving people of when it launches on how they can be successful in marketing it? Like, and if not, can you give tips to our audience? Because know.
Yeah, for sure. That's part of the thought process. And let's launch. So what I would say is, in addition to kind of, the earlier things I was saying is like thinking about beforehand, let's create something great. Mm-hmm. Let's think about how we're going to leverage it. And then before it comes out, let's make a plan for launching. And that means that you're kind of documenting the process. Mm-hmm. And the reason you do that is you're building anticipation. And a lot of times what prevents us from going through this is that, it's a lot of work, to be honest, right? Like you really do need to invest in it. But the people that I've seen where they like organically go viral, they did these launch techniques, which I think are really, really smart. So you start talking about it, you start sharing the title, you engage people like, should I do this title or that title? Oh, I'm getting nervous. My script, I don't know. Here's me practicing. Come to one of my practice sessions. You can hear it. Give me feedback. Like you're engaging them in making it happen. And honestly, the crowdsourcing of it will help. Like I've seen titles of talks like be completely changed for the better because we're crowdsourcing ideas, right? And then what you do is you sort of get, it depends on certain folks have their own numbers, but let's say you get 200 people that will commit to watching it all the way through when it launches, liking, commenting, and sharing it. And when it launches, if you can get a core group of people that will do that for you.
Like a launch party.
And a launch party, all that good stuff. But really it makes way more impact than you think it will because it sort of tells the YouTube algorithm that this is a thing, right? And one of the biggest metrics for communicating to YouTube that this is a great piece of content is that people do watch it all the way through.
Yeah.
And so most of the time when we post stuff, we don't actually request that. We go, like it and share it and comment, right? And rarely do we say, watch it all the way through. even if you stop watching it, let it run all the way through, you know?
Exactly. Just put me on mute.
Yeah. I don't know. These days, there's so many ads. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh.
Attention public speakers, coaches, and consultants. Ever dreamt of booking 5-figure speaking and consulting contracts? In just 5 days, I'm teaching my tried and tested system to elevate your speaking and consulting business. Forget the cold emails, bypass the salesy pitches. This challenge is about building genuine high-value connections. And here's a promise I have for you. With a commitment of just 1 to 2 hours a day for 5 days, you're going to witness transformative results. On day 1, you'll learn how to craft a business strategy without cold emails or paying to speak. Day 2 is all about you redefining your profile to attract decision makers ready to invest in your expertise. By day 3, you'll have your very own 5-figure sales system to turn contacts into clients. By day 4, we will have you automating your funnel with proven templates and scripts. And day 5, I'm going to teach you how to master the art of discovery calls with a step-by-step checklist and exclusive 5-figure sales secrets. Whether you're just stepping onto the speaking scene or you're a seasoned pro, this challenge is tailor-made for you. I'm going to teach you the exact strategies that have helped me help my clients make over $2 million in the last 2 years. The journey to a thriving 5-figure speaking and consulting business begins with this challenge. So are you ready to redefine your limits, accelerate your growth, and bask in the limelight of your success? I want you to join the 5 days to 5-figure speaking challenge now. Let's rewrite your success story together. Simply head over to speakingforprofit.com. You're going to click that button that says 5 days to 5-figure speaking gigs so you can get started with the challenge. Can't wait to see you there. All right, now back to the show.
But anyway, yeah, those are like the primary sort of launch tips that I have.
Okay, that's really cool. Does it help you think if a person's already on YouTube, right? If they're already producing content there, can you use this as a strategy to grow your YouTube channel?
Yeah, for sure. But I would say that some of that has to do with how many subscribers you have, right? And can already leverage the subscribers on YouTube. But really, we could say that about any piece of content. Yeah. Like if you wanted to launch like a little video that you posted on Instagram or wherever, like you could do the same thing and it would have similar effects, right? If you're like, this is a piece of content that I'm really proud of. And if you don't believe that it's real, try it with one piece of content and see what happens and then compare it to everything else. Because a lot of times we don't do things because we're not even sure they'll work and we don't know like who to trust, or we tell ourselves they won't work so that we don't have to do the work.
Exactly. Right. It's like, but a lot of this is trial and error and being willing to test things out. And like you said, really looking the data and seeing the growth. So I know you've done how many TED Talks now?
I've done 3 now. Yeah,
definitely. And to me, from seeing them, one was in a studio, more of like a studio, like y'all, like CBS behind the scenes, a couple from stage. When you did those, they were in different parts of your own professional journey as well.
Yeah. From
the first talk to the last talk, like what did you learn about particularly your brand and marketing to be able to grow it to where it is now? Like, and I'm not saying y'all need to, number one, go look up my friend, Don't Play Games, because he is popping. But I'm just saying, like, there's been a lot of growth that have happened for your business since that first talk.
Yeah. I think I love this question. I would, the way that I'm going to answer this actually is probably not going to be what you think it is. The primary thing that changed for me from one talk to the next is more confidence in myself and more personal growth, right? And it's amazing how that translates to success in every other part of your business and life. And it's just when you learn to trust yourself, amazing things happen. I read this book this year, like called The Tools by Phil Stutz. And he's like this like therapist that had like a Netflix special and like a famous actor like made him famous or whatever, right? Okay. And his whole story is that like he was so frustrated by this world of counseling and therapy because it was so much just like well, let's talk about why you are the way you are, and not a lot of tools to like actually change, and or when you're hurting, like how to, help yourself. And his clients were asking him like, give me something. And he didn't have it. And he talked to other people in the biz, and they were like, just, keep talking about their father. So he created it himself. And one of the conclusions he came to was that when we sort of like follow this process, like that is natural, like that we see in the world, that we're sort of tapping into something greater, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what he shared. He shared the creative process goes like this, and I have it written over here. You have an instinct, you create, and then there's a consequence, and you learn from it. Instinct, create, consequence. And if you can get into that flow of trusting your instinct about what you need to do next, create, which I love, like that's the easy part. It's like, oh, they get to create something. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then go like, all right, so what happened from this creation? Good, bad, whatever. And then you just keep flowing like that. And like, when you hear this truth and you're just like, yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Like it spoke to me. And so that's what it looked like for me. And then that would show up in different ways in the business where like my thing is always like, how can I create transformation for folks? Like, how can I, when I have this time with this person or this group or whatever, like I'm hyper focused on like creating a moment where they go, aha, or like, oh, wow. And I live for that.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm gonna have to get that book. That sounds like something that's definitely right up my alley. So let's pivot a little bit and talk about how do we use these TEDx talks to secure paid opportunities. You've kind of talked about like how, brands, business owners can think about this, or even YouTubers, but particularly people who are trying to get paid to speak. What is the best way to leverage your TEDx talk? And I know, you spoke a little bit about like the speaker's reel, but are there other things that paid speakers can be thinking about in regards to leveraging that? Because I know so many folks who have them, and they're just like, I'm like, why is it not even on your webpage? Where is
they
the
just
link? Like they're not even really like putting it out there, right?
Yeah,
which I find interesting as well. Maybe bad audio. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I also think that sometimes folks just want the experience, and that's okay too. Mm-hmm. Like I work with plenty of people where it's like the act of creating and delivering is transformational for them, and the experience is what they were seeking.
Exactly.
Right. And so, but we're a group of entrepreneurs, and we also want to leverage, and we want to give more and grow our reach. And so, how do we do that? Yeah. So here you're looking for like more of like the nitty gritty of like tangible, like things like once it comes out, how do we convert it into stuff? Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
pretty much. Cause I'm going to be honest with you. I already told you I was working with you last year. Money got a little funny. It ain't going to be funny this year. I was actually in meditation earlier today.
Yeah.
And I thought it was my wife speaking, but I think it was spirit. It said, don't spend it all in one place. And I said, ooh, it all, what's coming? Right. So I say all that to say like, I've been speaking and consulting for a while, but I'm excited to do TED because it feels like a challenge. It takes me back to like, the energy takes me back to my slam poetry days, which are a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety. But I'm also like, how can I use this to leverage more opportunities when I am in front of decision makers?
Yes.
And be able to make some money from it? Because me, my ultimate goal is financial freedom, so that I can spend more time giving back and with the people I love.
Yeah, it's a great question to ask. Here's a way to think about it. Like I once heard like your book could be thought of in the way that Disney created their sort of business plan, right? And in a similar way, your talk is like a much more shareable, shorter version that lives on a powerful platform book, right? And that's not to say you shouldn't have a book. Like I'm not saying like don't go write a book. Like that's great. It can do amazing things for you. I love TED Talks because like people actually click on them and watch them. So take the theme park of Disney. Like Disney uses their theme park as actually like the core of which everything else is birthed, right? Like movies, like the little characters and stuffed animals that they share, like, the books. Like, so when you think about your talk, you can also think about the things that can be birthed from your talk. And so it's the core of what other things come out of. And I like to think about it that way because it's a really brief, concise, like the heart of what you give, right? Here it is, come experience it. And I'll put it into this nice little package for you. And so, that's different for people. Like it could be coaching programs. It could be more speaking. It could be a book that comes from that. That's one of the most common, right? When you look at Brene, Simon, and other people, then you have the expansive version of the talk. And so if we're talking about like how you monetize it, think about your talk first as the heart, the core, the theme park, and how other things branch from there. The reason why that's so powerful is because every talk will have a through line, a one sentence version what the talk is. And the talk is meant to move us from where we are to where we could be, right? It starts in a problem and it ends in this way in which we can all access a solution to change ourselves and or the world. And then everything that branches from that should come back to that core through line, that core belief, that core gift. And this might sound simple, but one of the biggest mistakes I think people make is that they're trying to do like a lot of different things or get kind of sidetracked. And because it doesn't have a heart or a central through line theme gift, it kind of gets lost in the masses of what's out there. Mm-hmm. So that's how I want to answer that first. What questions, maybe I didn't get to it. You tell me.
No, I think that's a great way to look at it. A mentor I have often talks about, looking at our businesses as a tree, right? Like what is the core thing, core theme, or like you said, through line? And then what are the different branches of income that we can build from that, right? Which is, like you said, the book or the merchandise or programs, or maybe it's a retreat or a full day event, right? Like, so I love thinking about it in different ways, because I know there's speakers and consultants who are listening to this who might not have like the desire to be a paid speaker, right? Like everyone doesn't have necessarily that desire. Some people are like, you know what, actually, I really love that one day retreat I'm able to do with people. And that's the way that I want to build this out. Or I have a client who does some really cool retreats in Costa Rica. Maybe I just want to do stuff and travel with folks. So I love that concept and I love that thought, because I think what you're speaking of is people taking that moment a little bit more serious, but also being intentional about how they want to utilize that moment.
Exactly.
Really cool. Yeah, definitely cool. So I know you've got to go and we're going to wrap up soon, but I want to ask you just a question for you as a coach and as a dad joke pro. I'm asking this of, most entrepreneurs and coaches, because I realize that many of us, and I hope you weren't one, but have been taught to build our businesses in ways that burn us out and that don't really call in easeful abundance. And that's something I'm really trying to push all entrepreneurs to go towards. Yeah. So for you, one, what are some of the celebrations of being a coach, being a speaking coach, a speech writing coach? And then where are some of the challenges, and how are you navigating having more of an easeful abundance in your life? Because you're a dad, you're a speaker, you're a woo. Because like I told you, every time I want to get on and dance, and you have all this energy, and I'm like, where is it coming from?
Oh my goodness. That's a great question. Well, first of all, I think there's certainly like a disposition that I have that I'm like incredibly social and just like, I feel fed by other people. And as it goes, like, for whatever reason, people like me always marry introverts, right? And so like, I'm totally opposite to my wife. And she's like, I don't know how you do that all day. And so like, there's that. So I just want to own that, like, I that's just how I'm built. But there's a couple of things I would say, because you're right. Like, we don't want to jump into entrepreneurship just to, like, burn ourselves out and then return to, some job that wasn't aligned with us to begin with. And that certainly is my story, that like, I had different parts of myself that I had to explore before arriving. I was a stand-up comic for a long time, and I loved it until I didn't. And it was just like, I just felt like I did that. And I felt like I wanted to go deeper with my audience, and I was trapped by the medium. Like, I felt like I couldn't, I'm not Dave Chappelle. Like, he finds a way to, like, have these messages and things. And, and some comics are capable of that. I didn't feel like that was me or my style of comedy. So I looked to, teach. And that was also a part of me. I was a college administrator for a while, which was also a part of me that felt really called to give to young people, because my college experience was both like amazing and also really hard. And I felt called to serve. And until I didn't, until I felt like all parts of me are not giving anymore, and I can't be in it like halfway. So then the entrepreneur journey came to be. And yeah, it's like, I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders and I love it. But also, yes, there's a trap where you basically can work yourself into the ground, right? A couple of things. One is that there's a temptation to serve every possible client at every possible level. And if you have like a huge team and you can have a ton of offers and do that and like kind of, take people through all these different options and this little thing here and there, I mean, great, but for most of us, especially when you're basically just you're a solo entrepreneur, providing for yourself. Maybe you have a few contract workers here and there and that sort of a thing. Like, you really have to hone in on your offers, who you serve, and then you have to just blow their minds, and you just have to serve them so well that, most of your business is coming from referrals. And I can say that still today, that's the case for me. Most of my business comes from referrals. That's a sign of a healthy business. Mm-hmm. And that's the recommendation that I would make to anybody, is like, how do you create a couple of offers where you can create a transformational impact? And also, it makes business sense. And also, you're feeling a real need and providing an outcome that is not easy, and maybe even a little rare for some people, that they have a difficult time doing it. If you can tap into just that right there, that's the beginning of a successful business.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing and going a little bit deeper with me.
You bet.
Like, led me behind the glasses. You know what I mean? which I really appreciate. So, I will tell y'all right now, if you're watching or listening, my clients that have worked with you, that have worked with Cesar, have really not only transformed, but have said that doing their TED Talk was a moment that changed their life. Right. So, and I don't think it's the TED Talk, y'all. No shade to TED, but I think it's the process that you have, which is why I'm excited, to eventually work with you. But if y'all are interested, please engage in some of these activities. How can they find the group? How can they get on a call? Tell them a little bit about how they can work with you.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. So if TEDx is the thing, like, you want to go do a talk, like, you can join our Facebook group. It's just, the Facebook, /speak TEDx. So group /speak TEDx. And then you can always book a call with me. I've got, slots. I'm usually booked out about 3-4 weeks in advance, but I've got slots where we can do a quick brainstorming session and I can tell you about kind of options that we would have to work together. And I have the same offer if it's a keynote speech. We could do a little brainstorm call and we could talk about what it would look like to work together. So yeah, we could provide those links or however you want to do it, Evolve.
Attention public speakers, coaches, and consultants. Ever dreamt of booking 5-figure speaking and consulting contracts? In just 5 days, I'm teaching my tried and tested system to elevate your speaking and consulting business. Forget the cold emails, bypass the salesy pitches. This challenge is about building genuine high-value connections. And here's a promise I have for you. With a commitment of just 1 to 2 hours a day for 5 days, you're going to witness transformative results. On day 1, you'll learn how to craft a business strategy without cold emails or paying to speak. Day 2 is all about you redefining your profile to attract decision makers ready to invest in your expertise. By day 3, you'll have your very own 5-figure sales system to turn contacts into clients. By day 4, we will have you automating your funnel with proven templates and scripts. And day 5, I'm going to teach you how to master the art of discovery calls with a step-by-step checklist and exclusive 5-figure sales secrets. Whether you're just stepping onto the speaking scene or you're a seasoned pro, this challenge is tailor-made for you. I'm going to teach you the exact strategies that have helped me help my clients make over $2 million in the last 2 years. The journey to a thriving 5-figure speaking and consulting business begins with this challenge. So are you ready to redefine your limits, accelerate your growth, and bask in the limelight of your success? I want you to join the 5 Days to 5-Figure Speaking Challenge now. Let's rewrite your success story together. Simply head over to speakingforprofit.com. You're going to click that button that says 5 Days to 5-Figure Speaking Gigs so you can get started with the challenge. Can't wait to see you there. All right, now back to the show. Definitely, yeah. So y'all, I will put that in the show notes so that you have it. And if you're listening, just go on and look in the description of this show and just make sure that you let folks know we learned this from the S4P podcast. Because I hear there's gifts on the inside for S4P folks,
That's
but also, right, no trick. But also, we want to know that you learned something from here, right? So do that as well, right? Even if you're like, you know what, I'm still on the fence, or maybe you even have questions about what this process looks like, put that in the comments so that we can give you some feedback. And don't worry, y'all, I answer folks. And I'm sure when this amazing episode comes out, I'll be sure to send it to you, my friend, if I see a particular question for you. Because y'all, I'm gonna let y'all know right now, I brought Cesar here because I am not the TEDx genius. This is your person. So make sure that you deep dive into that. But I'm so thankful to know a person like you who's doing this amazing work and to get your dad jokes once a month.
Evolve, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. I always feel lighter after connecting with you. You just have that incredible energy to make, people feel good. And you create spaces where I think people are allowed to be themselves. And I just really appreciate that.
No problem. All right, y'all. Well, until next time, have an amazing day. Go sell something, go monetize something. Go try to speak for profit, share your story with the world. And until next time, peace.
See ya, bye.